Good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's NBA Sharp Betting Breakdown here on the Advantage Sports Betting Podcast. I am your host, Michael Fiddle. Today is Wednesday, January 1st. Happy New Year to everybody. Happy 2025. Let's start the year off with a banger, which means we're starting just the way we finished, with professional poker player Drew Johnson joining me. No other way to have it. An 8-game NBA slate to break down. We are coming off of a winning night, and we hope to keep that train rolling. We have Jerry in the comments saying, good morning. Nothing like going into New Year with a stress-free win. Spurs, no doubt, from start to finish. Spurs were no doubt from start to finish, and the under was no doubt start to finish, because I don't think the game scored until the Spurs hit a three, like 2.5 minutes into the game. So literally right from tip, the Spurs with the under dropped, and then the Spurs scored first. So when you were on a Spurs -3 and they hit a three and you closed at 4.5 and the under position, there was literally not once in the entire game, side or total, where we were out of pace for cashing both tickets and would come through. Tyrese says, Fiddle. What's up, Tyrese? Happy New Year to you too. Tyrese is better than Maxey, better than Halliburton. We're talking Tyrese Murray. Taylor said Middle Village was popping last night. Happy New Year's, Fiddle. Now, I was actually thinking of you, Taylor, and I was hoping that you would come to the show today, because Taylor was the one, Drew, who mentioned yesterday that he had that Fanatics middle between 222 and 215.5 on the OKC versus Timberwolves game, and I saw it land right in that zone, and I knew that he cashed those tickets, and I was saying, I hope he shows up tomorrow, because that's back-to-back days for Taylor. Also the one who cashed that Russell Westbrook and Jokic triple-double combo, comes back the next day with a middle. This man must be happy. Orit says, Happy New Year from somewhere in the Middle East. That is awesome. The show continues to grow, and we are going global. I love when people drop where they're here, where they're watching the NBA. Not only does it make me excited that you guys are tuning into the Advantage, it makes me excited that you guys are tuning in to the NBA in general. All right, let's go through this 8-game slate. It starts off with the Orlando Magic visiting the Detroit Pistons. Drew, I'll start off with the total and make sure that you guys know it makes absolutely no sense, and it is a total don't bet situation. But open at some books was 214, open at other books was 212. So not much to say. Besides, they have met in the middle. They have formed a consensus. You really can't read a market direction into it. If you're looking at this Magic team, you're obviously looking towards unders. If you're looking at this Pistons team, historically, we've been looking towards unders because of their stout half-court defense. But recently, they've been playing a little bit more pace, shooting a little bit more threes. And so this is a total stay away from me in the total. Where it becomes interesting, Drew, is the side. Detroit Pistons -1.5, a seemingly consensus spread across the board. It actually opened at 2.5 at all of the rec books, and then would take action and go down to the Magic were taking action. This version of the Magic, right? Still no Paolo, still no Franz, no Mo. Asking, no Mo is hilarious. Asking Jalen Suggs to carry a huge load. Pause. And you get to playing in Detroit, and they're going from 2.5 back to 1.5. I was like, why are this Magic team consistently taking steam? It was questionable in the NBA Cup quarterfinals. It was questionable against the Knicks coming out of the Cup stuff. It's like, why is this team still holding so steady in the market? Well, do they just love Jamal Mosley as much as I do, because he can coach any group of guys to hang in a game and play tough? I'm now seeing it go back the other way. The sharp books that opened at 1.5 are starting to move to 2. Specifically in that regard, Bookmaker is laying at 2 right now. Circa opened to 1.5 yesterday at 12:38 at night, so right after the new year, I guess this morning, and they have not moved the line once. Not once. We see some offshores starting to lay a cheap -2 at -105. So my question to you, Drew, is, do we take the Pistons now? Do we fade this shitty Orlando Magic team? Do we say the sharper books opened at 1.5 and are starting to go to 2 and it's viable action, or do we avoid it because we know that 2.5s came down to 1.5?
I think the angle here is to not look for a money line, right? Because if you can find a money line on the Pistons at like minus 115, you're kind of ahead of the rest of the market.
That is that yes. Let's see if that's available.
There is the best I see is 120 at like normal books ish.
Yep, that's correct.
I think I'm gonna take that if we're taking the Pistons.
You want to pay the extra, so you're being charged probably an extra 4 cents right now for the money line versus playing a minus 1.5 at minus 110.
Yeah,
I'm situationally, it's like, yeah, if it's a low total, if it's Pistons versus Magic, if we're expecting it to be a little bit of dogfight where it might be close, you might want that insurance in some cases. I'm cold-blooded and I'm like, no, I don't care. I'm always value. It's worth 4 cents. I could save 4 cents. I'm going to save 4 cents. Realistically, you could go walk through a parking lot and find that value lying on the ground or under a couch cushion. So it's like, how often there should be times where you compromise that. So you're saying this might be one of the times where you compromise it and actually play the money line.
Yeah, there's been this is definitely recency bias, but I've done this maybe 4 times now this season, and I think 2 of them have hit the 1 point difference. And I'm like, oh, glad I had the money line and not the minus 1.5.
So Ian ran the numbers for the start of this year and how key numbers have performed this season specifically. And number 1 was shot up the chart, right? So historically, it's like, when I look at like last 25 season data, I think it's the 12th most common outcome. When we isolate last 3 season, it becomes 13th most common outcome. And when we isolate this season alone and how it's done, it's like top 4. Yeah. So you could look at it and say, all right, well, if you're talking about this year, okay, now that it's moved to minus 124,
let's go.
This becomes actionable on the spread at minus 1.5. I would not pay, Drew. Don't pay minus 124 for this money line now.
No, I'm not going to. I'm going to find the last 120 available and grab that.
All right, it is.
Might not be there anymore. Let's see.
Bet Rivers if you have it. That is it. All right, I'm going to play a spread. Minus 1.5 is consensus across the board. There is a minus 108 for that at DraftKings, so you're playing even a little cheaper
that's what you
on that, and that is the direction that I'm going to go. So not only is the money line now 9 cents extra, you're also saving another 2 cents on taking a minus 108 at DraftKings. So you see me and Drew scrambling right now. Give us a second.
we gotta make money. Yep, that is the play. There's nothing else to do.
How much are you going? Half unit?
Yes. Yeah.
All right, we're in.
We're in. We got it.
Great.
Write it down. Record it.
All right, start this show off with a 2025 bet on the Detroit Motown Pistons. Oh, we said no Mo, and now we're taking the Motown Pistons. All right, that works out perfectly. Indeed. Shall we talk some Bulls Wizards?
Yeah.
All right, this
Wizards
one was
been weird lately.
You noted there might be an actionable angle on this game right now. I took Bulls at minus 4.5. So this is an interesting one, Drew. Actually, there's a very fun theoretical conversation we can have with this game. So let's have it. This is something that I can wonder all of the fucking time. And I say it on the show that I do not bet my opinion and that my opinion does not weigh more than the marketplace. And it's like, where do you start to let your opinion start to weigh in? It's like, okay, if my opinion strongly agrees with the market direction, I might play it harder. If my opinion disagrees with the market direction, I might play it lighter, or I might forego playing it, or I might wait it out and then play the other side at the other direction once it meets the resistance point and get the best direction, best number in the side that I actually wanted for that game. So it's not only blindly reading market. There are some elements where you do initiate some of your own thoughts into this, right? Which ones are you going to play? Which market angles do you see are actually worth being actionable, right? So there's always that set, and that's the base. Is the base starts with where is the market moving, and is that an action that I want to? Is that a side that I want to play? The flip side of that is all of these opinion things. And then I'm sure like you as a poker player can start to relate to this. There are times when I invoke my opinion, but in the long run, and I've talked to our friend Mike about this, another sharp in the space who doesn't do content, but we talk to him frequently, that I have no clue whether the times that I invoke my opinion is net a good thing or net a bad thing where I should just be blind market reading. So for this game, now I'll apply it to this situation so you understand a little bit more.
Sure.
For this game, I was telling you yesterday after the show that I want to try and find ways to back the Washington Wizards. That they just returned Kuzma. They're bringing Valanciunas off the bench. Brogdon is starting to play a bunch of minutes for them now.
Difference.
And they have the stable, savvy vets on the team that they're probably wanting to play before the trade deadline in a month that I actually want to back the Wizards right now. And so I see the line movement. I see the numbers come up. I see all of the market signs point to you have to take the Bulls minus 4.5. So I took the Bulls minus 4.5, and all of the market signs would have said you want that for a full unit. However, I only took it for half a unit because I want to back the Wizards right now, or in this instance, I don't want to heavily fade the Wizards right now. So now I'm seeing this line at a consensus 5.5 across the board. 6 is showing up. Bookmaker just changed the 5.5 to a juiced minus 5.5. A few 6s here and there. Bet Rivers has 6, Sugar House 6, some exchanges 6, some offshores cheap 6. And so in hindsight, I 100% should have played it for a full unit. And then I could have reduced that back with some +6 and opened. That would have been a positive middle, having a +6 and a minus 4.5. So I don't really know where I'm getting to you with this, but like, one, would you still play the Bulls at minus 5.5 with 6s showing up? And two, is it appropriate to invoke my opinion like that? Or do you think I should just blindly play these numbers for full units when I'm doing things like when I'm seeing those spots?
I think it depends on how hard the line is pushing. This line specifically, when it was at the 4.5, it was very clear it was going to push to the 5.5. Now,
yes, that's what I felt.
Yeah, like, so when you see a line like that, you probably want to put a full unit on it, because if it's guaranteed to push at least a point, it's probably likely that it's going to push 1.5 to 2. Correct?
And if it does push the full point, but not 1.5 or 2, you could always play it back, and it's not necessarily gaining value, but you're not shooting yourself in the foot, right? By playing a unit, letting the market give you some information. And if it only gets to a 5.5, I'm sure I could find a cheap 5.5 on the board right now. It's essentially even money to take the other side, right? You're not negating yourself. You're just de-risking. So you can then play it back and de-risk to half a unit in general.
Yeah. Which isn't the 6 the second most common outcome? Or is
6 is number 1.
6 is 1, yeah.
8 is number 2, but 5 is the second most common push number because how often spreads are priced at 5 versus 8. So you'll get the 5 to land at 5 on a game that's priced at 5 more often, not more frequently to how many, but the volume of games that are priced at 5 makes 5 a very common push number. So crossing through a 5 is very important.
Yeah. I would continue to wait it on your position and see what happens with the 6s. Because if you can get a 6 at minus 110 and have that push number as well, I think it's even better. Obviously, it's even better, right? And with some books already coming up at the 6, like, give this another couple of hours and you might be able to just grab the 6 and have kind of a number and a half, if you will, that you can hit where you're profitable nicely, while also de-risking on the 6, right?
I think that's perfectly said. Patience is a virtue in this game. Striking at the
Absolutely.
time and timing becomes so important. So let's check back on 5.5 as actionable at the end of the show and see where it sits then.
Yeah.
All right. Is there anything injury report wise that we need to discuss for the first two games? Probable Jalen Suggs, Cade Cunningham for Detroit Pistons and Magic. And then we know Paolo, Franz, Simone Fontecchio out for the Pistons. And of course, Mo for Chicago and Washington. The only real one is the questionables here are Zach LaVine, Jordan Poole, Bub Carrington. I'm going to lean towards Bub Carrington being out because of the head injury that he sustained last game, like potential concussion. They called it, Drew, a post-traumatic headache after he was taken out of the game.
I mean, I have some insight into this.
Right.
Actually,
You're like what? Maybe you're not even returned to playing shape right now.
I participated in a full practice yesterday.
That's how if we're using NBA injury terminology to describe your concussion recovery process. You have practiced in full, and as the Miami Heat would say for Jimmy Butler, returning to game shape conditioning.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So any insights on them calling it a post-traumatic headache? It was just the first time I had seen that.
Basically, what I would imagine, so I got smashed right here in the temple by an elbow as a guy sort of crossed in the lane and pulled the ball, right? Like you do. You see it all the time in the NBA, right? And it's just he happened to get the temple, really, really hard shot. Immediately I was like, oof, down. And afterwards I kind of felt fine. Like it wasn't like you take a headshot here and there, you're just like, oh, whatever, shake it off. It happened to be kind of the last game we had time for because the gym closed at 4:30 or whatever, and I think it happened at like 4:20. And I was okay. After that, I came home, drove home, felt kind of fine, and then I got this really bad headache. And if I had just had the headache, I wouldn't have gone to the hospital, I don't think. It was all of the other stuff. Like I'm trying to read my spreadsheet and my eyes can't focus on the text.
Say, like blurred vision. I've never
had it wasn't even blurred. I couldn't get it to like center on whatever it was that I was trying to focus on. Yeah, and then I started to feel slightly nauseous and the headache got progressively worse even after I had taken pills. So I was like, okay, let's go get this one checked out. But if I had just gotten a headache, I probably would have been like, and that's what I would call it in this
post-traumatic headache. You think?
Yeah, he just has a headache. He doesn't have the blurred vision. He doesn't have like the balance nausea issues or anything like that. It's just like, oh, you have a bump in the head and that sucks.
So whether or not Bub Carrington is officially in concussion protocol, I'm uncertain for, but given the sensitivity to the issue in sports right now, I would assume that he's more doubtful than questionable in terms of this injury report, which might move a guy like Kuzma, who's been coming off the bench, into the starting lineup, or I'm not sure how they've been distributing the Brogdon stuff as well. So you're going to look at probably more minutes for those savvy vets that we actually like that they're showcasing to try and trade. So like those are reasons why I didn't love fading the Wizards right now. But again, the numbers spoke volumes more than my opinion. Doubtful Torrey Craig out. Ayo Dosunmu. The Ayo Dosunmu being out was a reason why I was looking towards Kobe White in the assist market. Over 5.5 was a prop that I was considering but have not bet yet. At plus money, there was like plus 115s, plus 120s. Marvin Bagley also remains out for this game. All right, let's move on to the Brooklyn Nets facing the Toronto Raptors. Toronto Craptors yesterday. Drew,
rough one for those. For the boys yesterday.
Have you seen them? Like, did they go missing yesterday? Like, I look at the score and it's 100-53 or 100-56, and I'm like,
I'm pretty sure it was very close to the worst loss in Raptors history, if not the worst loss.
Okay, so theoretically speaking, I like backing teams after their worst loss in history.
Yeah, me too.
Like, I think it's a good angle to look at a team who gets blown out off to the Utah Jazz to then rebound the next game and then actually cover a spread. So now we have the Toronto Raptors. I played the Raptors at the +1, and I played the under, but it was at 223.5. I will check in 1 second. So the reason why I played the Raptors was because they got blown out yesterday. Now they're returning home, so they should get like a little bit of a wake-up call, a little bit of a yelling from coach, from Darko.
A little.
Exactly. Scotty is back and playing, so they have their best player. Grady Dick was out last game, but he's questionable for this game. So a little bit of asymmetric injury risk that could help the Raptors if they're getting returning players. And so I was like, okay, this is a spot where I want to back the Raptors going home. This is also a spot where I want to fade Brooklyn. Like, I know Brooklyn's been competitive, but they just made the trade, and they just traded Finney Smith, and this is going to be the first game where D'Lo is active for the Nets. So for that reason, like, you're bringing in a brand new lead ball handler in D'Angelo Russell, who's terrible in transition defense, to go against the Raptors, who push in transition offense from the perimeter. It's just like a perfect matchup situation where I was like, oh, I want to back the Raptors in this spot. I want to fade the Nets. If anytime this Nets team is a road favorite, sign me up to fade it, right?
Yeah.
And we get Raptors off of their biggest loss. So I played the Raptors +1 at half a unit, and I will check what the under was. The under was 223.5 and was played back with a 221 to make a middle, but it was mainly tilted in the direction of that 223.5 towards the under in this game. Would you still play Raptors? I think so, right?
Yeah, I would, especially I'm looking at the injury report, Cam Johnson being out, D'Angelo Russell being in. I'd rather have Cam Johnson than D'Angelo Russell.
Cam Johnson's confirmed out?
It looks that way. That's what Ian says. And I like to
that.
trust Ian's opinion / research, because that man knows what he's doing.
Oh, Cam Thomas out, Cam Johnson in.
Yeah. Thomas. Okay. Yeah, I'd rather have Thomas. If I was backing the Nets, I'd much rather have Thomas than Russell. I'm actually surprised he's out again.
After he came back and now he's out again?
Yeah. Man, if that hamstring was just a little bit healthier, that shot might have went down. And what
that was your Jaden Ivey moment.
Yeah. Oh, well.
All right, well, I would avoid the under at this point now that it's moved 3 points and we might return Grady Dick and that we have D'Angelo Russell, the king of the over, another one of them. Traffic Cohen on defense, pushes on offense, shoots threes, can get to the free throw line. D'Lo, classic over player, so I'd be hesitant 3 points of movement in the total to still play the under as the main direction. I would play the Raptors at -112. You're paying 2 cents extra for it. I do think that's okay. It's the same line that I got.
That are -110 out there.
Yeah, let me see. Caesars -110 would be the only one. But we're also seeing Toronto start to show up as a favorite at certain places as well. So
yeah, I'll grab the +1 myself right now for half a unit.
Bet Rivers +1 -109. You can get a better line than me at Bet Rivers. Bet Rivers does this where they know the side that you want and they'll just make it 109 so that you go to them.
You put their money with them.
Yeah, it's smart.
It is smart.
Absolutely. It's not like, oh, they're screwing up. It's like, oh no, they know exactly what they're doing right now.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about the Utah Jazz taking on the New York Knicks in Madison Square Garden the night after New Year's. Being a New Yorker, having spent many of New Year's in New York, I know that there's a Fish concert every year at New Year's in the Garden, and I don't think it's going to smell appropriate for a basketball game within 24 hours, Drew. What I hear is that the Fish concerts, that place reeks of the reefer midway through the show. We're probably very early into the show, so we'll see if they can clear it out. But anyways, Jazz at Knicks coming off of New Year's. You have to wonder on both sides how they fare just after a New Year's in New York. Who was at One Oak last night till 2, 3 in the morning. I wish I had my nightclub sources still, but I don't. We do have some asymmetric injury risk with Jalen Brunson being listed questionable with the calf strain. Drew, Jalen Brunson has been listed questionable with calf strain for a few games recently. He was a game time decision the other night against the Wizards and then was active and then dropped 55.
Mm-hmm. Same thing the game before against the Wizards, and he dropped 40 or something like that, 38 in overtime. Like, with
It
an
is unbelievable. I'm done. I used to be not a Jalen Brunson hater because I love the dude, right? He's the man. Um I used to be someone who just never felt like it was like a lot of skill. I always felt like it was shaded with a degree of luck, the way he was just getting to these mid-rangers and throwing up these lefties and pausing on a dime and like fade little floater. And I'm like, what? I've come to this year. It was last year in the playoffs into this season. Brunson is fucking that guy, like Donovan Mitchell level. That guy, he's fucking unbelievable. It's not luck. This is his game, and so he makes it work for himself. I did play Utah Jazz at plus 14.5. I'm gonna check where that is now. Given the fact that we had Brunson questionable coming off the New Year's, and just knowing that had some. Like I said, like I use the word asymmetric injury risk. Like if you look at the injury report for this game, we know what's happening on the Utah side, and there's a questionable superstar on the Knicks side. So if he goes out, right, he's been questionable and then been active. So it's priced as in questionable, but more likely to play. If he goes out, like if he's rules in, this might go to 13.5 or just stay at the 13. If he's out, this shifts to 10. And so that's what I call asymmetric injury risk, when it's on one side and the line is shaded towards the guy playing. And it's just like, okay, if anything happens in this game, then I would gain a huge line movement because of the injury news. That's kind of how I read this spot. Taylor says nightclub sources is next level. This is a real thing. Those absolutely used to exist. Used to. We got Michael Jordan back in the comments. It's a Fiddle New Year. Sure. Year of the Fiddle in the Chinese calendar, if that's a thing. True. 14.5 down to 13. Still playable at all, or just skip this game in general? Total has bounced between 228, gone up to 230, back down to 229. So I don't really have any reads on the total.
Yeah, I wouldn't touch the total on this one. I will say the last time these two teams played, the Knicks lost by 15 in and it was, I remember the game specifically because I read the game at least that time. I don't think the Knicks have enough height and size to really compete with this Jazz team on the boards. And that was the angle I took pregame. And then there was a moment where the Knicks were so far out and the Jazz were so far ahead that I tried to play it back, and I ended up trying to just form a big middle. And it was a massive mistake, and I was kicking myself afterwards because the Jazz ended up completely dismantling them for the entirety of the game instead of just, the first half, where we've seen the Knicks do this against the Wizards, right? Where they're losing by 5, losing by 4, something like that, to like midway in the third quarter these last couple of games. And then all of a sudden, all of a sudden they're 20 points up.
Like, oh my God, I actually might cover, but you don't deserve to cover, but you might.
Exactly. So that was kind of how I was trying to read that game. And then I was kicking myself because my initial read was Jazz outsides these guys. They're not going to be able to get rebounds. They're not going to be able to get offensive putbacks against this team. It's going to be tough if they don't have like a 60% shooting night or something like that, right? And coming off the New Year's Eve in New York, right? I know these guys are professionals, but like it's also like
they're also humans.
Yeah, and if you're under 30 in New York with millions of dollars, what are you doing on New Year's Eve?
One Oak, baby. We're in Chelsea. We're at One Oak.
Exactly.
See me outside.
So, Jazz traveling in, I think it'll be harder. Like you don't know exactly when the team got in necessarily, right? Like did they spend New Year's at home and then fly out, at 2 a.m. and now they're kind of hanging out in a quiet New York for New Year's Day, just working on their game, getting themselves right. Whereas the New York Knicks guys, like some of them might not even be awake yet, right?
I would say the Jazz. I would say the Jazz were there on New Year's also. So I think the concern runs equally for both. I would say the Jazz flew in knowing that they were playing January 1st in Madison Square Garden, and the Jazz, even the Jazz organization, might even be chalking this up as a little bit of a schedule loss, saying we're taking our guys to New York.
They wouldn't mind that as a team either, right? Like, let's
I
just
know organizationally, I think they'd say it's a chemistry building moment. I played the 14.5 because I thought there was value in the asymmetric injury risk, but again, probably wouldn't play it at 13 given those scenarios that are going on. Total, like I said, was 228.5, went up to the 230. I saw 231 come back down. I hope the movement back down is more questionable about Brunson than anything. That would be nice for later. Hope Brunson's okay, but JB, you can take tonight off. Let's talk about the next one, which is the New Orleans Pelicans at the Miami Heat. This is I believe it's the first game after the Heat versus Rockets brawl. Tyler Hero versus Amen Thompson. A little WWE match at the 3/4 court right in front of, I believe, the Heat bench. I want to show the clip because Terry Rozier was suspended for this game, Drew. Did you happen to see what Terry Rozier did during that incident to get suspended?
To be honest with you, I didn't even know it happened. That was a game I wasn't watching. I think I was playing poker that night. So
all right. Well, so have you seen the fight? Have you seen the fight in general?
No, not at all.
Oh, let's go. Let's go. Nice.
I love these live clips for me.
Yeah, I love doing the live clips anyways. All right, so Terry Rozier is here. All right, we're Heat bench. Kevin Love over here, Spoelstra here, right?
Yeah.
So we're in front of Heat bench. You already could see Tyler Hero and Amen Thompson jawing, and you could already see Jalen Green is looking at it. Terry Rozier's got eyes on it.
He's in a pose like he's about to run right towards him and give him a spear or a check right into the stanchion.
These guys, Jovic and Jabari Smith Jr., I was like, I don't know if you're running over to set a screen or you're realizing what's happening in the action as well. All right, anyways, Terry, the reason why Terry's right here, just FYI, is because this is supposed to be an inbounds play where Terry Rozier is getting ready to be the inbounder. So he's when I first saw the clip, I thought he was coming from out of bounds. And I was like, this guy is a dog. This is Terry Rozier, just won teammate of the year for this clip. He happened to have been on the court. So only a 9.5 moment from Terry.
Yeah, okay. Uh-oh.
I'll slow it down in a second and show you.
Madness on the floor here in Houston. Thompson went after.
Hero is ready.
Heat having to be restrained. Hero looks hurt.
Pointing at the ground.
Okay.
Clapping. Okay.
Okay. So, in real slow-mo, right? Amen brings Hero to the ground. See that?
Just headlock throws him. Yeah. Nice takedown.
Watch Terry. Immediately in the scrap.
Take it on two.
Right there. Like, that's the guy who just hit your teammate and knocked him over. And within a split second, you're on top of his ass. So shout out Terry. I know this is not good for maybe it's good for the league, but like locker room wise, that's what you want your teammate to come in from out of bounds and do for you.
I agree.
Meanwhile, Tyler, you said Tyler Hero's ready. Yeah, he does seem ready. However, he did get mighty far from the action very quickly.
Yeah, you're kind of right there.
He was getting quite clowned on Twitter for being so far from the action and then like clapping his hands and talking shit. We also had last night Devin Booker and Cam Spencer in the Grizzlies Suns game have a little tussle. That one was very much not to this level. I don't think we're going to get suspensions. We also had suspensions in the Dallas Mavericks when they played a recent game. I forget who. Najee Marshall was suspended. I forget who was on the other side of that. But yeah, a little bit of NBA physicality coming back. What they say this league isn't physical anymore. Who said that?
I like it. To be honest, I've been watching a ton of hockey and starting to cap hockey, which we're gonna bring into the advantage at some point over the next few months. We'll see. I want to make sure that my results are there before I start.
Oh,
touting
look at
picks
you.
and
Look how
whatnot.
responsible that is. You know how many people start giving out picks although they're not winners?
Yeah, let's wait for maybe not a 6-month sample size, but I'd like a 3 to 4 month sample size. I'm at 2
Coming
months
from
now.
someone who's a proven professional gambler, who's literally a pro poker player for a living, to say, you know what, before I dabble in that space, which is just simply a different market, right? It's all the
Yeah.
same principles with a different market. If you guys want to do this stuff to NHL, to MLB, to NFL, there are so many strategies that you could correlate. I think the reason why I'm a good handicapper in general is because I've studied the NFL space so much, and I've learned all of the highest level tips and tricks and figured out ways to configure those to NBA scenarios.
Yeah,
So,
that's exactly what I'm doing with the NHL. Plus, I'm also Canadian. I had sort of tuned out of the NHL for, let's say, 2 years, 3 years. I always kind of keep a market interest in it, like check the standings, and I watch probably 4 or 5 playoff games come playoffs, but it hasn't been like I haven't been following it like I do the basketball. But I've been enjoying it this year. I've watched probably 10, 12 full games now and maybe 15 third periods. One of the things I love about hockey, and this is to bring it back, the self-policing of it is kind of really good. I know that like fighting is we need to take fighting out of the game and guys are going to get hurt and whatnot. Now, there's something to be said about bare knuckle boxing because you just don't hit as hard, right? Like it's not like you got a glove to protect your hand. So like, especially if you're a hockey player who's doing like all these, hand-eye coordination things with your stick and you got to have soft hands, right? If you're out there breaking your hand on somebody's face and now you're out for 10 games, like that's not good for your team. But if somebody's hitting your goalie or snow showering your goalie and you got to give him a face wash, and then if he's going to put a
face wash.
Yeah, the old face wash, you've seen it, right? You got to get him the face wash, and then you got to get him, somebody hits a guy from behind with a cross check into the corner and puts their head off the boards or something like that. If they're like a boarding / cross checking penalty, like that guy's getting lit up immediately after. And when he gets out of the box, if he's not, on a 10-minute misconduct or thrown out of the game for that, you better believe he is dropping the gloves with whoever the best fighter is on the other team. Because that shit, and that is why those hits don't happen in the league, because it's so dangerous for that kind of thing to go on. But guys won't ever risk putting themselves in that spot because you got a big enforcer on every team that's going to be like, come see me, buddy. You're going to come into my office now.
So, Drew, what's your ROI betting hockey, roughly?
Probably 8% right now, 10, somewhere in that range. So I split my spreadsheet up. I started a new one on Christmas Day because the old one was getting kind of full. So I'll have to do some math on my own and put those numbers together. But I'm pretty sure on the old one, I was like 2.5%, 3%. And since Christmas on hockey, I'm like 20%, 22%. So it's got to be somewhere in the 10, 8 range.
So Steven says NHL is the hardest sport to cap and does not transfer well skill set wise for cappers. Usually appreciate the caution in sample size. So I agree with some of this and disagree with some of this. I don't know if it's the hardest sport to cap. I don't know about that. There's an old joke in the gambling community of a guy who's like, I'm betting all these football games, and he's like an ex-football coach, or he's a guy who played football or knows football left and right, and he's just like, I haven't hit any of my last 20 or 15 football bets. And his friend goes, why don't you bet hockey instead? And he goes, well, I don't know anything about hockey. And the joke, the concept is, well, you do better betting things you don't know because this guy's an idiot in reality. All right. The difference between NHL and doing things like MLB, doing things like NBA or NFL, in which NHL is more similar to MLB, is that you have puck lines and run lines, and you're mainly you're not really changing the number, you're changing the VIG, right? So you have to start understanding how VIG changes correlate to value more than number changes, because you're really not going to ever see an NBA spread. Drew, when's the last time you saw a number on an NBA spread go out to minus 120 on one side? Very rarely, right?
Yeah, you get like
go
118,
minus 115, maybe minus 118 occasionally, and then the
move it
number
a half point
because the numbers aren't worth that much where they're going to move it cents. But in NHL or an MLB, it is. However, the basic assumption here is that if you consistently beat the market and you consistently play lines where you generate closing line value and enough closing line value in the VIG difference that covers the the tax that you pay betting a minus 110, right? That 2.38%. You're paying 52.38, but you're projected to win 50-50 on those. But if you get that closing line value, you now have a higher expected value than 52.38 when that starts. So therefore, you have a plus EV ticket. If you still do those things in hockey, in baseball, in whatever, and you do it for a long sample size and you do it consistently, you will win. You will. And so for that reason, transferring skill sets, whatever, figure out how to beat the closing line, do it consistently, you are going to win. All right, we are halfway through the card. We'll make the back half of this card a little bit quicker. 4 games through the slate. We have 4 more to break down. Let me remind everyone to please rate, review, subscribe to the podcast, like the video. If you're watching on the YouTube channel, throw a thumbs up, which I think is like down over in the bottom right corner of your screen. Subscribe to the YouTube channel if you are not. I am terrible at plugging this stuff, so please do the little things that could help us out and grow the show. We have the next game up is the New Orleans Pelicans taking on the Miami Heat, an 8.5-point spread. Obviously, we just showed the clip with no Rozier, a 220 in the total. Drew, I'll throw this to you. I know you were looking Pelicans. I have no action in this game and really no thoughts.
I just think the Pelicans are feisty right now. They were a good team last year, right? And now that they're finally getting a little healthier and getting some more run together and, they're figuring out their rotations, it seems like they're kind of back into being a real NBA team again. And I think this iteration of the Heat, I know they're at home. They probably flew back a couple of days ago and had a great New Year's Eve in Miami, right? And the New Orleans guys probably flew in last night and did the same thing.
Could have had a great New Year's in New Orleans too.
Yeah, that's true. Oh man, New Year's. Here's a question for you. Would you rather do New Year's in Miami or in New Orleans?
Miami.
Really? I was immediately New Orleans. Hook me up. I think that's probably an age thing between us.
Or a flavor thing.
True. Yeah, I do like food in New Orleans.
or a tasted preference type of thing.
Yeah. I'm a big seafood guy, and I love me some. What are the donuts they make in New Orleans?
I was talking about Latin women, but we'll continue.
I knew what you were talking about.
All right, so Pelicans, I did just check the numbers. Pelicans did open at a 9.5, come down to 8.5, so there is movement towards the Pelicans side. It does make a lot of sense. What Drew's saying, they're starting to play a lot faster with DeJounte Murray and CJ McCollum, most notably back in the lineup. The total has come down from 222 to 220.5. However, a lot of these Pelicans games have been taking late over steam. So if the initial market is towards the under, I would wait, because the smartest people are likely going to come back waiting on a better number and getting to the over. New Orleans had a terror attack last night. Wow, that is very scary.
Oh no,
that is not good. We don't love to hear that. Thanks. Appreciate your comment and letting us know, but also worst comment of the day. Hope everyone's okay. The Dallas Mavericks are playing in H-Town at the Rockets. Again, another fun city where it would have been to be for New Year's. Now, we got teams playing in Miami. We got teams playing in New York. We got teams playing in Toronto.
That's a great New Year's city, too.
Literally all of these things. Houston, if only the Nuggets were actually playing in Atlanta, it's except for the reverse. The worst team on their the Hawks had the worst New Year's on the road in Denver, unless they went to that place where Ja Morant had the Instagram photo. All right. The Rockets are home minus 5.5. It has been this 5.5 since the open. This line has not budged. We have Kyrie Irving back in the lineup and playing after he took a game off against the Sacramento Kings. We have no Luka Doncic, but the Mavericks have shown to be a little feisty in the games without Luka so far. I don't know if that's worth holding on to moving forward or the Rockets are worth taking. This is a line that feels perfectly priced. If anything, Drew, I would probably lean Rockets, but we are seeing fives show back up, expensive fives, so like a minus 115 on the 5, a minus 112 on the 5, or cheap 5.5s at minus 105 at BetMGM. So this is one where I would just totally skip, given the numbers moving the opposite direction of the side that I would want, and being in this zone where it's like probably pretty flat and nothing really to gain.
I don't mind an over. I do not mind an over in this spot. I think both these teams like to score, play with pace. The injuries are a bit. No, I think I kind of like an over in this one. It is moving up too. It was 221. It's now 222. 221.5 in some places. I think I'm going to try and find a 221.5. I just think that both these teams like to score, can score, lots of angles like that. Defense might be in short supply for this one, considering New Year's and all of that kind of stuff. Tired legs, you're more likely to focus on offense, right? But that's a theory that's run through our show for. What is it?
Who's suspended on the game from the Rockets side too, right? Don't
Marshall
you have Thompson suspended?
Thompson,
yeah, and Najee Marshall. So you have one of the Rockets' best defensive players also suspended here.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think I'm gonna have a half unit on the over to 21.5 wherever I find it.
There is one of those at ESPN Bet. There are 221.5 to minus 115 a few places, and then 222s. The minus 108 on the 222 at FanDuel would be a better choice than the minus.
Yeah, there's one at DraftKings right now. I'll grab that.
So 222 minus 108 at DraftKings would also be a fair line if you're looking for a 221.5, because that half point's probably worth about 2 to 3 cents. So
yeah.
Selling half a point, gaining 2 cents is pretty fair to still play that in an NBA total. Terrible news popping in the chat. Apparently 10 died last night in New Orleans with the terror attack. I did not know this news. Nick says, did you guys miss the Nola news? Yes, I did. That's terrible.
I literally woke up and sat down in this chair, turned the lights on.
Yeah, me too. I woke up, started looking at the lines, and got ready for the show. I will catch up on that news shortly after. That is really, really sad stuff. I feel like the Orlando nightclub was that a New Year's incident too? A bunch of years
that
back.
was a concert incident. And I remember that. And that wasn't that the one where the girl singer got shot as well?
I don't know, but I just think all of these instances are just way too insane. Everyone needs to take some relaxation, meditation time, and allow people to enjoy their nights out and not disturb them with terror attacks. All right. The Atlanta Hawks taking on the Denver Nuggets in Denver. The spread opened at 4.5. Drew, this was another spot where I saw the 4.5, knew that it was moving to 5 or 5.5. I played it for stronger than I did that half unit of the Bulls ticket earlier. Like Denver in this spot. I think we've known the Aaron Gordon news on the Denver side, and then on the Hawks side as well for this game. We're looking at that Trae Young probable with the Achilles tendonitis. Dyson Daniels listed as probable. Out Larry Nance Jr. I think low key kind of important for the Hawks, and Bogdanovich very important for the Hawks. Doubtful. So role players that I felt mattered more than what their spread line was going to be, whereas the Aaron Gordon news has been there and it's completely priced in. Russell Westbrook's playing fantastic for the Nuggets right now. Shout out to him. Christian Braun is playing really good basketball. They're starting to bring on their second-year players in Julian Strawther, Peyton Watson, starting to look a lot better. So Nuggets are a team that's been hard to get a grip of. Atlanta is a team that's been hard to get a grip of. But in this one, line movement clearly says Nuggets. And then the total is just 246. I think that's very appropriately priced for these teams because the Denver
Yeah.
right now, their offense is just electric. Their defense is
A little
kind of
lackluster.
struggling. So this line opened 245. It went up to 247, and now it's sitting there at 246. So I think, again, consensus, I think it's a fair line. I don't feel strongly about any direction there. The Nuggets at 5.5 are probably a place where I would say there's 6 popping up at Bookmaker, 6 popping up at some of the exchanges. So maybe a 5, you could get 5 minus 113 at Bet Rivers. That would be playable. If you're looking at a 5.5, you might want to, the minus 108 at FanDuel is a possibility. But besides that, if you're not looking at the 5 minus 113 at Bet Rivers or the 5.5 minus 108 at FanDuel, I would probably forego that and maybe look money line on Nugget side. The cheapest money line is minus 200, minus 210. So if you could find a money line below like 220, that would be the direction that I would look for this game. Any thoughts on this one, Drew?
No, not really. I don't trust Atlanta on the road realistically ever. Denver has been, like you said, really, really, really good lately. So
winning games, but they're close.
They're close, but like
close
their execution down the stretch, specific. It's Jokic, right? Like it's just that man knows how to read like basketball better than just about anyone I've ever seen, other than maybe LeBron.
Yep. Agreed.
Like his basketball IQ is up there.
He's doing those same things where he's I think Ian put in the chat a I'll play it real quick. A Jokic compared to Magic Johnson video. I'm gonna run this.
This triple-double by Jokic does move him into sole possession of third place on the NBA's all-time triple-double list.
And he is passed to Magic Johnson.
Started calling the Joker Magic Joker. He has the instinct of a Magic Johnson.
Did he make a miraculous shot? Yes. Has he ever done it before? You bet he has. Will he ever do it again? Time and time again.
Play this game to win, to have fun, and to make people happy.
Assist makes 2 people happy, a point make 1 guy happy. It's simple as that.
Sensational, dazzling showtime by Magic.
Jokic is wheeling and dealing like a showman out there. Hook shot is good. Wow. As good as it gets.
What a play! What did we just see there? My goodness!
Knocked away, loose ball with 15 seconds, and Johnson has it, and he throws up a foul.
Clock ticks, gotta put one up. Jokic for the win. Oh!
This triple-double by Jokic.
Goosebumps.
Isn't that an awesome edit?
Goosebumps. Yeah, shout out the editor. That was really nice. Yeah, who was I comparing to Larry Bird the other day? Somebody. I'll have to get
obviously Peyton Pritchard. No, I'm kidding. RJ asks, what do you see when you say you took Nugs 4.5 and knew it was going to go to 5.5? I know that the Nuggets are a strong road team. I mean, strong home team that takes a lot of home steam. And I knew that there was 5s and 5.5 starting to pop up at certain books. So it was an expensive 5. So like it was a -5, -112 when 4.5s -110 were there. And then 5.5s -1.5. So if you're looking at 5.5 -1.5, 5 -112, and you're comparing it to a 4.5, and you're starting to include things like 5 is the second most important push number. It's a very important key number in NBA betting. Then if you have strong indications from market spots and also knowing when did these lines come up, right? The 4.5 I knew was posted, and I mentioned these things with timestamps. The 4.5 was posted before the 5s and the 5.5s come up. So you're looking at that with updated market information, new books coming online, a team at home that generally takes steam, and moving through to a very important key number. It was like, okay, that is your go on your Nuggets -4.5. Taylor says this rules. Alex says good clip. We love instituting the clips into the show. We got one more game to break down. This is the Sacramento Kings taking on the Philadelphia 76ers. The line opened at SAC Kings -7. However, that was already known with Joel Embiid news going to be out. Then we saw the Keegan Murray is going to be out news come in once the line was already priced, and FanDuel opens it at 5.5. So 7s existed, 5.5s. It was coexistent in the market. And so when you see that -5.5 and +7, both there, it could be 4.5, it could be 6, it could be 3.5, it could be 5, it could be 2.5, it could be 4, it could be 7.5, it could be 9. Like, I don't give a shit. You see 1.5 points of difference in an NBA spread between two different books laying relatively -110 odds. I think one of them was -112 and one of them was -108. Split the difference. You're paying 20 cents a vig. You're right on path with setting up your 5% middle to come back the other direction. Play them both at the same fucking time. So I played 76ers +7, and I played Sacramento Kings -5.5. It is not Rick Ross that says it. It is Future that says it. I was doing the digging through the rap songs. It is Future that says at the same damn time. Something, two bitches at the same damn time. Something, two bets at the same damn time.
Oh, is that God? What's that guy's name? He played for the Raptors. Professional scorer. Had 2 girlfriends. Why can't I think of his name?
Like I'm Lou Will.
Lou Will. Gotta love Lou Will.
2 girls and they get along like I'm Lou. I just signed a new deal. I am in the Matrix and I just took a blue pill.
Yep.
That is a Sixth Man by Drake. Great song. All right.
Great song.
All right. So I played them both at the same time, Drew. I thought 76ers +7 would be the right side with it being at 6.5. You could say that it is, but you could also say with it being at -5.5, 5.5 was the more preferable side to 6.5 than 7 was to 6.5. So I should have tilted it in the direction of the Sacramento Kings. I came back in on the other direction when the Sacramento Kings were there at 6, and I played more Sacramento Kings -6 at -108. So I have a bunch of different tickets on this game. I also played the under at 223.5. It is still there. I think that is still worth playing. I would take this under now. I think the Kings spacing with DeMar DeRozan being asked to be more of a floor spacer without Keegan Murray being out there, you're going to have to maybe elevate Herter, and then you're going to have to play more, guys off the bench who are not as strong shooters, more Trey Lyles minutes. So for that reason, I think the under is still a good option. We know 76ers pace up a little bit without Embiid. That is all priced into this line. You would have never gotten a 224. Oh, I got 224.5, not 223.5. However, I do believe 223.5 is still playable. Let me see if there is
224 at DraftKings still.
Perfect. All right. That's where it was last night too. I would still play 224 under for this game.
Yeah, I'll trail you on that one.
All right.
I don't mind the spot at all.
I think that does it for today. Let me quickly go over the WHOP card and go through the list of bets before we get out of here. 12 bets on the card. It looks ugly. It looks messy. I don't give a shit. That is the truth about being a bettor and doing this for a living and not being someone who does content for a living and just gives out 1 or 2 picks and says, this is my card. No, I take lots of small stabs at a market that's moving. I come back in different directions and I end up with a big card. So it looks like Chicago Bulls -4.5. Line is out to 5.5 or 6 now. That is a good spot, but I probably should have played it more. Toronto Raptors +1, still available at -112 at a few places, and I would say worth playing. Denver Nuggets -4.5. It has moved out to the 5.5. There is that one -5 at -113, and there's a 5.5 at -108, which might be worth playing, but do not play the 5.5 at the full -110. And then Nuggets are a team where you might want to look money line because they play a lot of close games. Utah Jazz +14.5 with that line at 13 or 12.5 across the board right now with that asymmetric risk to Jalen Brunson. The Brooklyn and Toronto under 223 played back with that middle at over 221. The line currently sits at 220.5. So a nice little positive value in the direction that we are tilted there. The Josh Hart rebounds is a good prop as well. I played that at -105 and it moved to -125. And then the host of Philadelphia, Sacramento tickets, like I explained, mainly have a middle there on a Sacramento Kings by 6 or 7. That would be great. Other than that, it's probably just small vig loss and a position on that under 224.5. That does it for today's show. Thank you to Drew Johnson for being with me on the first of the new year. I would have it no other way. Thank you to Ian Toria in the back. We always appreciate his help doing the injury updates, grabbing these clips, making the WHOP card. Ian has been absolutely stellar for us, and so that will all continue through the year. We thank you guys for tuning in and being so committed to being here as well. Whether you guys are in the comments or simply watching, I could see right now across all platforms, 533 people signed in and watched the stream today. That support means a lot to us. We hope to continue the growth. We will be here throughout the rest of the week. Tomorrow's show will also be at 10 a.m. We're going to continue 10 a.m. for the rest of this week and then make a decision of how that moves towards next week. Thank you to everyone. Again, thank you to Drew. Thank you to Ian. Some words from Patrick Beverly as he says, peace out, and says, y'all subscribe to my podcast while you're asking all these questions.
Y'all subscribe to my podcast while y'all asking all these questions. Don't forget to subscribe to the pod. And if you're a kid, listen to your parents. Listen to your parents.
Listen to your parents.
Subscribe to the pod. Subscribe.
Subscribe to the pod. Subscribe to the pod. Subscribe to the pod, man. Good, those are good.